So you're very welcome this morning to Educogym Live, and today I am joined by John from Educogym in Castleknock, and really excited about this. We've been meaning to have John on this Saturday morning live program for quite some time. So John, you are very welcome. Thank you very much for joining us. Let me see. I'm going to have to add you here to
All right.
bring it. Ah,
Oh,
there he
there I am.
is.
Yes, indeed. Well, I'm delighted to be here. Obviously, as you say, it's been a while, but you've had able assistance from Jackie and so many others, Tom and of course Martin. So, hey, I'm delighted to lend my assistance today. So,
Yeah, it's
delighted.
great. It's great to have you with you. I mean, not maybe not quite so pretty, but you'll have to do as an able replacement for Jackie this morning. So Jackie, I hope you're watching this.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so John, one of the reasons that I wanted to bring you on board is because, well, for one, you've had a huge amount of experience in a Duco gym. You've used the model. You've trained for maybe a few more years than I have. And then also, I really wanted to bring in maybe the experience that you've had in business and how training and nutrition, how it's kind of impacted all those different areas. And I know you've been such a huge resource to the members in Castleknock and really to Educo Gym in general. So I'm honestly really excited. I hope people can get the full value of your experience over the next sort of 30 or 40 minutes. So
Yeah, yeah.
maybe
No
I'll
problem.
start out by asking you, what made you, well, maybe you give a bit of a background on your business life and maybe how you fell into Educo and Educo Gym, and
Yeah.
then really sort of the impact that's had from there.
Well, actually, I can remember the day because it was 1991 that I first came across Tom McKenna. Though I had been working for a large corporation, senior position, they were going to amalgamate all these companies together. I'm trying to save my staff. And of course, I forget myself. I get pneumonia, become very sick. My doctor says, take up golf because you're working too hard. And I say, I hear
We've
the
just
people. So I might frozen it. But anyway, I'll keep going. Um,
do.
but yeah, so I go along. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. So yeah, I go to I find Tom. I go down and do a few relaxations with him. But it's interesting because at that stage I just wanted to just relax a little bit, chill out, so I could go back to doing what I used to do. That's
Mm.
what I asked him. And so of course Tom probably still laughing today about that one. So he got me to over time to have a do some relaxation, which is very valuable, of course, but begin to look at what do you really want? No, no, no. What do you really want? And of course, what I really wanted was to do something which gave full expression to me. And of course, that was to go work for myself. Now, I didn't know that at the time. I just wanted to relax. But as you begin to relax, your mind begins to clear to see the real possibilities. And I knew that I was living someone else's life. I was working for the man, doing well, but that wasn't quite it. So as over time, Tom was talking to me and ultimately expanding, if you like, my horizons, my thought process, because ultimately thoughts create your world, right? So we know this now. I didn't then. So I thought, well, okay, if thoughts create my world, well, what I really, really want is to work for myself. So in
Mm.
1992, which was just the following year, I set up my own business and went out and worked in the steel business. I'd been in the steel business prior to that, but I knew what I wanted to achieve, and this was a big part of it. I worked on the picture of what the outcome would be,
Mm.
and did all these plans. Most of them are obviously were financial, and that's the way it is. There's no problem with that. But a lot of them were about what's the picture, how does it bring in my family, how does it benefit so many others, and also how does it benefit the client? Because I really thought I could do it better than most of them are doing. Guess what? That turned out to be the case. And we did that till I sold the business in 2006, obviously built it up over that time. But also, when I went out into business, I had two very small kids. I had a mortgage, which was that stage 2 years old, precisely. So it was a bit of a gamble,
Mm.
but I'd become so impassioned about the picture, about the goal, the outcome, that I had no choice. I had to follow this. And as I say, I did that. I sold it in 2006 and finally moved on from it, left it in 2008. In the meantime, I'd set up a Juco gym. And as you know, I mean, in the middle of all that, I had been training and trying to find a few of these sort of muscly things somewhere along the line. So there you are. Is that
But
a reasonable?
yeah, it's just a lot of people are going to be able to relate to that, particularly now. I think so many people have time to think about their circumstances, where they are, and maybe have had that sort of gap where they've started to think, whoa, is this really what I want to do for the rest of my life? And that's a really critical moment in somebody's life where they seemingly have all these pressures and responsibilities. You're married, you have children, you've got a mortgage, bills to pay, and you have a stable income. Maybe you're not enjoying exactly what you're doing and you're highly stressed. And so run me through that decision. I mean, what was it that really allowed you to suddenly jump and say, right, I'm going to start my own business? Was it in the same industry?
Well, it was the same industry. I was going
Yeah.
to deal with the same clients. I was going to make sure that, as I say, that we were going to do it differently. Quality at the time, I mean, steel business has changed obviously over that time, but quality was a big key. And I just wanted a way that I could supply consistent quality. That was my big calling at the time. And that also meant that if they rang, if they emailed, well, it wasn't email, that's it, but if they faxed, which was the big means of communication, that they would get an immediate response, that people cared about them. So okay. So what was the thought process at the time? Normally speaking, you'd say, "Look, I've got this mortgage. I've got these small kids. Look, you've got a really good job." In fact, they were offering me promotion in this whole thing. And okay, I don't know if you want to know, but it was agonizing. There's no question about that. It was agonizing.
Yeah.
And you really do need to look at that if you're making a jump. But it became inevitable. Okay, if you relax, which is what we did, I relaxed the mind and I began to ask myself, well, okay, what do I really want? What do I really want? And it becomes, as the picture becomes clearer and clearer, it sort of begins to propel you. So yes, there are obstacles, and I think it was Henry Ford who said, obstacles are the things that you see, scary things you see when you take your eye off the goal. So there were obstacles. Now I had a good look at them. I did have a good look at them at the beginning. I
Yeah,
wrote
and I
them
think
out.
this is important.
Yeah,
This is important for people because I think you have to look at the downside. Can
yeah,
you can you put up with the downside? And if you can,
yeah. Well, then it's inevitable. I
yeah,
mean, you bear in mind in the middle of this, when I had made my decision, they come along and say they knew I was wobbling a bit. This is that stage my employers, and they came along and offered me a bigger car, and they also offered me an office, well, a bigger office, and a promotion. So I was going to be over a bigger, amalgamated
division, yeah,
division, yeah, and it was going to be, we're dealing in many millions, and so yeah, and it would have been a very exciting in its own way, but they wanted me to do it this way and not that way, and so, but that confused me in the middle. I had made up my mind, then they offered me this thing. So not only was I now turning down a kind of reliable, not easy job, but a consistent job, a salary that was going to come in. It's going to be more money to turn down, and a bigger car, and more prestige, and all that. And and the next step, if I was to go out my own, I was going to be in this room here now, which is the box room, or what became the office. And that's what was the step, on my own. How scary was that? But I looked at myself in the mirror, having gone through all the downsides, and said, look, I have a burning passion. I really want to do this. Am I ever going to do it? Well, it has to be now, because if I take this promotion now, I'll never go back to do it. That effectively was my story. But the part that was crucial in that was understanding what was happening. As the scary bits came up, I realized that these were obstacles. That's because of the training I had done effectively with Tom. They are obstacles. Now, they had to be looked at, because I did have to pay my overhead here. Obviously, I have to pay my salary, I had to pay for mortgage and kids, etc.
yeah,
So that had to be done. How much would it take to cover that? Well, okay, that was a mathematical equation that needed to be done. So I had to do my spreadsheets, as you would do. Where do I think I'm going to get that business from? Customer A, B, C, D, E, etc. And you roll that out and say, okay, well, look, in month one, I'll get this. So there's no question, it was not taken lightly, and I agonized over it. But, once you've made the decision, then it's all systems go, because you've burnt your bridges, you got to go.
yeah. Yeah, no safety net.
No safety net. There was no
Yeah.
safety net. Now, this isn't. This is more about discussing the mechanics. This is what I did, obviously, but the mechanics where I began to see the outcome, where I could go, and became as it became clearer, it was inevitable. I just had to move. Effectively, what actually began to take place was I was drawn towards my goal.
Yeah.
Now, then, so that I mean, it's once you begin to see the mechanics and you recognize obstacles for what they are, they can be real. You need to take account of them, but you don't have to live there.
Yeah.
It's better to live where the goal is, where you really want to go. And that's why I'm always saying to clients when they come in, who are you and what do you want? And people will say, what the? But people have a story. That's who they are, who they think they are at that point. And that's just as I went to Tom and I told him who I was, and he went until I did some relaxations and I began to realize, well, actually, do you know what? That's not who I am. That's not the sum of who I am. And really, all this is about is the sum of who you are.
Yeah.
I mean, who are
Uh,
you? What
and
do
I
you
think
want?
it's important for people to understand that based on maybe your background and the school that you've been to, the friends that you've hung out with, maybe what your parents believe, all with good intentions. You have in your mind a particular life that you think that you're supposed to fulfill, and that can come with its own pressures because and very much from a mental point of view, because you want to, I suppose, maybe please those people, or maybe even the idea that you have in your head, you're trying to move always towards that. But sometimes there's this feeling inside of you that sort of says, well, maybe I'm not that suited to this and
Yeah.
I'm really not enjoying it. And that, I think that causes its own stress. And you can see from dealing with a lot of people and talking to a lot of people, that conflict in a person's mind can make them become quite unwell and feel very unwell and feel very unhappy. So there's a point where the person makes the decision that, okay, is this really worth it? And do I have to remain on this path? Or is there something that I can do to change my circumstances and do something? Now, there is something about doing something that you love to do. And I mean, all sorts of successful people talk about it. I never forget that famous Steve Jobs, where he did his address, I think, to Stanford University, where he talks about the passion and loving what you do. But there is an energy that comes with that, as you can imagine, when you're really excited and passionate about something. And that almost carries you along. And I'm not saying that it's all, it's all sugar coated, but at the same time, I think and you can probably attest to this, John, that it does help you get through the challenges, because you will get thrown plenty of roadblocks, but it's how you navigate yourself around them. And I think that's vital. So from the point of view then, you find yourself, you decide to go out on your own, and you've worked out the financials, and you've got a clear vision about what you want to achieve. Where does the training and nutrition come into it? Because you've done the relaxations with Tom, and anybody who's listening to this for the first time, you'll find Tom McKenna's relaxations on our Facebook page. They are well worth doing it, well worth doing. You'll really enjoy them. And they'll give you a good insight into, I suppose, the mechanics of the mind, I think. So where did you go from then, John? When did you start sort of looking at diet, nutrition, training?
But bear in mind, at the very beginning, I had been sick, and that's just what caused me to go to seek out Tom.
Yeah.
So therefore, I had been unwell, if you like. Okay, so. But what was it that was going to make me well? The first thing that we started to look at was just relaxing. And the doctor had said, go and play golf. So I started with this. And as you become more, if you like, clearer, you realize, well, why wouldn't I want to be stronger, fitter, and healthier? So naturally, it's all in the same territory. There's no question about that. If you want to have more control of your body and mind, well, then you're going to want to eat good food, and you're going to want to train. So I started to go down. I went down to the Tony Quinn gym. There's photographs of me somewhere. At this stage, I was a little bit rotund, not massively so, because I've been playing football for years. And so then suddenly, it's Mr. Strong. And then suddenly I decide to, I have a t-shirt like that. Anyway, I decided that maybe I should do some training. So I go down there, and obviously that stage was a very hardcore gym. So it's like, whoa. But in that environment, I began to see how it all connects even more. So physically, you start to train, you start to eat good food, you feel better, and that
Mm.
affects your focus as well, and that affects you in business as well. So I remember going to meetings. I used to train sometimes 6 o'clock in the morning, and then I go to a meeting, and I'd obviously, cleared my mind and all, and gone in for a meeting. I knew who was going to, if you like, be the victor, if you want to call it that, or at least get their way in this meeting, because it was going to be me, because I was clear, I was stronger, I knew what I want here, and this other guy might arrive in, first thing in the morning, dragging a coffee, trying to shake off yesterday or last night. There was only going to be one outcome here. So that it just made me, and I felt anyway, that it made me more dynamic, clearer in mind, and obviously it meant I could make the extra call, I could work the extra hour, and somehow or another come home and then, be available for the family as well, because all of that is part of it.
Yeah, and requires a lot of energy, as I'm sure everybody at home homeschooling at the moment is suddenly acutely aware of, even
Yeah,
how
yeah,
much more energy is required. But it's true. So when you're running a business and you have family life and you have your commitments, it does require energy. I certainly found that when I first started in business, and I had been training like this using the Educogym method and model maybe a couple of years before, maybe a year before I started in business. But I certainly found that it was essential when you had to turn up in the office, and maybe you were required to make all the sales because you were a small team. You had to be on your game, and it had to start Monday. You couldn't allow yourself a couple of days to recover, and then you were quickly accelerating towards the weekend. It doesn't work like that when you start your own business. You've got a lot more counting on you, I think. The
absolutely. And bear in mind, that time I had a plan, a financial plan. And when it came to it, the bank said, you know what, we're not going to support you. And I was like, what? So this was
Yeah.
when I'd already left, and they changed their mind, because the steel business in those days particularly was quite erratic. Um, but so then I had to think on my feet. But guess what? Because I was so energetic, I was already training at this point, and determined. I found another way, and it got me through. And then I also one part of it made me really think about talking to my clients and saying, "Okay, look, I'll get you this if you get me this, etc., and do a deal." And so it came. Everything was dependent on you, as you say, but uh, I suppose you just become invincible. If that's the right term. In other words, you just become a little bit stronger in your mind and in your body. And it's very important. It was really important because you're working day and night, really. And I see people today, now that we're in a Educogym, I see people going through the same thing, and they're not training, thinking, "Well, I'm too busy to train." You're thinking, "Oh no, it's the wrong way around. Give it more, and you'll get more."
Mm.
How you think, how you eat, and how you train will absolutely impact on every deal you do, every deal, whether that's in relation to your staff, your clients, your individual sales, your collective sales, as in many products that you sell this week, etc. It's such an important thing. If more people only realize who you are is what you think in any minute, not throughout your whole life. Yes, that's true, but in any minute, right now, what are you thinking? That affects you. So that affects you in, as I say, in making the decision in the first place and following through in every day, because you're going to get plenty of setbacks. This was the steel business; they eat the young in the steel business. So every single moment, you're either in it or you're completely out of it. And I'd rather, if I have my house on the line, I'd rather be in it. And that's essentially, to me, was the difference in the training. Now I did some relaxation every morning. Okay, some mornings I would train first and then maybe do it might only be 10, 15 minutes, but then I just started wanted to try and clear my mind. We also did some visualizing, so visualize the outcome. So the more you could stay with the outcome, the less you're likely to be detracted or distracted by the obstacle. These are different things that go on in people's lives, and it's normal. It's quite normal. People are offering you obstacles every day, but if you're really clear about the outcome every day, guess what? You're going to move closer and closer to the outcome. And what allows you that is fortitude. What is that? Well, training, diet, see the picture, see the picture,
Mm.
see the picture, and then have fun with it. By the way, it's not all hard work. It's you got to see your family in that picture as well. So, sorry.
Oh, so 100%. But I think what's interesting when you think about it this way, and a lot of people are going to relate to this. So, they can get up in the morning
Well,
and very, very quickly, your day can kind of run away from you. So, you're in with the kids, and then you're trying to get started with work, and maybe the day hasn't quite started out as you want to. So a lot of things come from all sorts of different directions. And it was interesting. I was reading a book a couple of weeks ago, and it was by a very famous copywriter, and he was talking about the processes that were needed to write good copy. If you write an ad, the text behind an ad, or if you're writing a book, or you're writing any type of script, the copy requires a certain level of creativity. And he was talking about the advertising business, and he was saying, okay, if you're in this business and you have people who write copy, and then maybe you have your operations team and you have the different parts of the business, he said, you want to make sure that the team that writes copy have their own floor, because the type of mindset that's required to be creative and to really allow that creativity to flow meant that they might not have what other people would see as a normal day. They might
right.
you might have to go out for a walk, or they might have to clear their head, or they might have to have downtime. Whereas in the operations team, it's all go to just
Bang,
making
bang,
sure
bang,
that they're
bang.
crunching the numbers, they're
Yeah.
doing what they're supposed to be doing. Now, I think that operating at a different level in business, and you probably find this too, and even in sales and in all sorts of, if you really want to make an impact, having that level of creativity is so important. And this is where I think the training and relaxation actually come into play. And I know that you're going to agree with this, because we talk about it quite a bit. So when you get in and train, and all of your mind is focused on what you're doing, you're really paying attention to your training. You're treating it almost like an art form. That's how Tony would always describe it. Then all of your mind is on what you're doing, and then you get this great freeing of your attention. You're out of your thinking, you're out of your thoughts. It's like a gap in all that noise. And then suddenly you'll find that you get the best ideas, or you suddenly become creative. So that's just so people watching this can relate to what we're talking about. It's trying to get out of that almost chaos that can ensue on a daily basis. Even getting away from the media, the noise on the radio, every type of social media and device is trying to take your attention. And then for this period of time where you do a relaxation or you train, you're in control of your attention and you're applying it to something. And then you get this great, it's this great change in your mindset. So maybe describe, John, how you would see that area, because I know that that's vitally important to you.
See, this is right in the area of the mind-body link. So if you are even mind-muscle link, depending how you want to put that. So if you go into train and you train well, and most of you can see from most of the people that we have in Educogym, you were lucky enough to have clients for years, 10 years and longer. They have learned the art of training with all of their mind. So much as I mentioned earlier, if you have a goal you're really excited about, guess what? You throw yourself into it, and that means you're doing it with all of your mind. So that's the key. So if you train with all of your mind, yeah, you will train harder. There's no question about that. Jackie refers to it as lifting even heavier weights, and that's fair enough. But I just want people to realize that you're training as hard as you can. It's your capacity. So when you're lifting the weight, pulling the weight, whatever that is, all of your mind is on the training. You're not thinking about problems, you're not thinking about anything else, and you're giving it everything. Your body responds. It releases all the perfect hormones to give you the perfect results, to make you feel absolutely amazing afterwards. The block of 20 minutes that blocks out all the other thinking means that you get these hormones released, and you've created this space for almost like heightened awareness, you might want to call it that. So people leave sort of walking on air, and guess what? Their creative juices are flowing. And that's that's one of the reasons I used to train first thing in the morning. I don't know, but I used to train first thing in the morning because it gave me that release, and I felt like it didn't matter what was going to happen. I could get through the whole day. And I can see people doing the same thing. In all the gyms, we have people who come in at 6 o'clock in the morning,
Mm.
20 minutes train gone. They're going to go and attack the day, seize the day. Not everybody's like that. I appreciate that. But they're the people who do that. And they're the people who their minds are made that way, I suppose, perhaps, or they have come around to that way. Mine came around to that way. That's the absolute truth. It is a huge thing, this business of actually focusing on the weight that you're lifting, on the muscle that you're activating, and you get that connection. And it does cause a degree of elation at the end of the training. Okay, you're breathless and all that, but you recover quickly. But you have this elation. What is that? It's a release of hormones. This is what we're supposed to be doing, releasing these wonderful hormones that keep us young. As you get older, that becomes even more important, but it's still important at any age. So that's my thought on it.
So one of the areas that I think that you could add a lot of insight to, though, is the training and nutrition as you get older. So when did you start training and getting into the nutrition, the relaxation?
Well, the training, as I said, it was certainly, I came to it more gradually. So it was after I'd set up, maybe sometime around the time, not around 92, but I really got into it in the mid 90s. And
And you were what age at that stage?
I suppose, well, I was coming my late 30s into my 40s.
Yeah.
So much so that I went on a seminar. First seminar I went on with Tony, that was 1998. And again, that pushed me even further, because bear in mind, I went there thinking, I've done quite well here using this stuff, Yeah. So obviously you realize there's more. And in fact, the more is less, because you need to kind of let go of that as well. And in the process, I obviously became, well, maybe a bit more aware of who I was. So at that point, I decided, I wonder, could I do a competition? Oh my God, what? Stand on stage in your sort of knickers and do a few, and but that was partly to see how far I could go with this, because we're a lot of young guys in the gym and they look great, but could I do this? Okay, because this is really putting your mind on really to test here, because you're going to stay in a diet, maybe it's a crazy diet, for 6 months, and you're going to train every day, and you're really going to give it a lot. So I did that, and as you know, I won that competition.
Yeah,
For
I wish we had the pictures. So I missed a trick there. We should have had those photos, actually.
You don't want to scare the young. But anyway, the point was, I just wanted to see how far I could go with it. Now, what that means is, you're doing a competition. What does that mean? Okay, just to put that in terms, I figured, well, I'm this age, but I need to kind of get my tummy to this much, whatever the inches were at the time. I need to get my chest to this much. I need to get my biceps. So I wrote out all these numbers. I found photographs around the place. There was no such thing as the internet at that stage, or if there was, I wasn't aware. But I put it together and made this sort of model of what I thought I would look like. And I worked on that. I visualized it. I saw myself going on stage. I did. I'd never done anything like this, obviously. So, and my kids wanted to disown me. Oh my God! But, I did it. It was something. It was an achievement in your life. It was one of those things you build up to, and you go for. I visualized it every day. I did my abs every day, and when I was doing my abs, I could see the picture. It was like me going into that picture every day. Mad, I know, but
yeah, but so that's what it takes.
But it is. But you see, the thing is, having done it there in that way, where you're really on the line now, everything is on the line by doing this. Guess what? I suddenly realized I could do it in business. I became even better at business as a result of that. I became even better at focus, bringing up unconscious attention, which you can talk about it if you want to. So bringing those states up, if you like, it just became easier as a result of doing it in this way. So sometimes you need to push yourself and sort of go out there 100% into the cold, and guess what? You'll find you've got even more capacity available. So that's how much it meant to me, I suppose, and that's how it impacted upon me. The training, the mind focus, is actually even more important. And I would say it's your mind, your nutrition, and your body, if you like, the training itself. They're the three things that are key. Obviously, if you go a stage further, you might find out what's inside, and obviously that's another force again, and maybe there's four things then. I don't know. Do you want to take it from there?
Yeah. So, do you mind me asking? Well, I'm going to ask you anyway. What age are you now, John?
I'll be 63 on my next birthday.
Okay, brilliant. So how has that sort of changed as you've got older? What have you noticed that's different about training nutrition, and what can you? Because we'd have across all the gyms, we'd have a number of people in their 50s, their 60s, their 70s, and they really see the benefit of training and the difference that it makes. So, how would you maybe describe how it's changed, and have you noticed? Has the level of importance changed? How does that all fit together?
Yeah, yeah. It's a good question, really, because in that is everything. The truth is that once you, like, the reason I mentioned the competition, of course, was once you do that once, you know what it's like to have your body at that peak. You really don't want to move too far away from that, and it becomes easier to do that. But eating protein as we get older, anyway, it's very important. But as we get older, it becomes absolutely critical. You need to feed your body. The body wants to age. That's what it wants to do. I mean, if I see my peers, if you like, they're actively involved in aging. Obviously I've gotten older too, but the thing is that they are eating foods, drinking drinks, and living a lifestyle which is actively encouraging the aging process, which is as we
Accelerating it even. Yeah.
Accelerating, yeah. So I don't. I mean, obviously, my picture is to, as you know, live forever or die trying. So therefore, I'm going to feed the body. So it becomes more important. You might say you get away with less as you get older. That part doesn't interest me, but it will for most people. You will get away with less. Why? Because your metabolic rate tends to slow as you get older. You lose muscle, your metabolic rate slows, and people tend to eat less protein. I don't know why that is. Just at the very time you need to be eating more protein, they eat less protein. So it becomes very important. It's my way of life, I suppose. But I also, because I see what's happening with my peers, I really don't want that for them. I don't want it for them, which is probably one of the reasons why we have a lot of older clients in Castleknock. They see this old guy wandering around, and they think, well, maybe if he can do it, so can I, kind of thing. But also because I'm not going to accept when they tell me they can't do it, they can't stick to the diet or whatever. Now, I'm not going to kill them or anything like that, but you're going to draw more out of them just by being around, actually, just by being a bit older than them or similar age. The oldest client we have is 85. We have a couple at that age. And the transformation in those people, when they came in, you're concerned about balance and things of that nature, had to make sure there's nothing on the floor, they might fall over. And now they can train with the groups because they're stronger, fitter, and healthier.
Yeah.
So in terms of nutrition, for me, it is key. Doesn't mean I wouldn't have a glass of wine, of course I would, but I'm not going to do takeaways or anything of that nature because I know it's not going to help me. If my goal is to be as healthy as I can as I get older, knowing I'll get away with less and less, then naturally I'm going to continue to watch my diet and the training, which I enjoy the training anyway.
It's interesting. So from training older people, maybe as they get into their 60s, 70s and 80s, what do you notice as a before and after? How would you describe how maybe they come in, and then what's the process? What happens? What do you notice over a couple of weeks, a month, couple of months? What actually happens to them?
I think at the beginning they're asking, am I too old for this? They're quite tentative.
Yeah, will I be able for this?
Yeah, they're quite scared. They might expect to see a trainer who's 19 or something, and we all have great trainers. We're very well trained, so they will understand that you will train a 60, 70, 80-year-old person different to the way you would train a 20-year-old. So it's a different expectation. That's not to say that having given that early stage of encouragement, done some basic exercises, done a strong induction, and that's important, as we know, to show them, look, this is how you do it, and we know you can do it because we've had others. That's the great thing about being around as long as we have. We've got a wealth of experience, so we know that we've had loads of people through the system, so therefore you will be successful as well. So at the beginning there's this tentative thing. There also the strength is very little. The grip is very poor. Balance is possibly in question, and coordination can be in question. Um, but very quickly it comes back, and that's the beauty about this. You can do a lot to reverse the aging process. That's why I'm saying that I see people I would regard as prematurely aging, shuffling around, stooped, all those things. Don't give in to that. I mean, please don't give in to that. It's not the way you're supposed to go. It's not, we are a world, if you like, a nation that's prematurely aging. 68%, maybe 70% of the population are overweight and obese. We know this. But that leads to a greater aging process. It leads to diabetes and all kinds of other things, all of which encourage the aging process. So I would be saying to people, no, you don't have to do that. You don't have to go that road. What do you want? Seriously, do you want to be healthy? Do you want to be well? Do you want to be strong? Being unable to get out of the chair doesn't happen overnight. That's an aging process which takes place over time. You're losing half a pound of muscle a year on average. But guess what? That speeds up as you get older, and it speeds up if you eat and drink the Western diet. So they come in, they are, as I say, a bit tentative, scared even at the beginning. But with that degree of encouragement, they just get stronger all the time. And like that particular example, the 83-year-old, as I mentioned, 85-year-old, when they came in, they were 78 or something of that nature. So we had to clear the floor, as I say. We had to make sure that everything they were doing was seated at the very beginning. We really couldn't really rely on them standing. As over time, they got to the point where they could stand and exercise, and then they could get to the point where they could do it. There's a couple of exercises we might do with one leg risen, and so that's going to affect their balance. But now that's not a problem.
Yeah.
So it's so important. They can push a door, which so many people have problems with. They can pull the door. They can do their shopping. They can go for walks. They're less likely to stumble. This is so important. By the way, it isn't that all of our clients are that old, by the way. There's only so many that we do, because most of them are just coming in for weight loss. But as you asked the question, and it is an area of real interest for me, I suppose. So that is, but that it is proof that if you can kind of have that success with people of that age, of course you can have people that success with people of 40, 30 and 20.
Yeah.
Because it's much easier.
Well, what I've noticed is that if somebody comes in and maybe they haven't done this type of training, or their lifestyle hasn't been great for a number of years and they're in their maybe 60s or early 70s, the transformation is so rapid. That's what I can't get over. It's almost like you give water to a plant that hasn't had water for a while, and it suddenly rejuvenates in front of your eyes really, really quickly. And I must say, when I started training people, I was in my mid-20s. And so when you're in your mid-20s and you think of somebody in their 50s, they're much older, and somebody's in their 60s, they're really old. Okay, so it's not quite the same when you're in your 40s. But when you're in your 20s and you have this idea about somebody who's older, maybe that idea has just been put in your head. And then you get this shock, because you suddenly realize how capable they are, and they surprise themselves somewhat as well. But as they get older and they start to lift weights, my goodness, they can be so strong. At any age, you could be so strong. And if you give the right nutrition and the right diet, and this energy comes up, and it's a total transformation. You see it with people who are older. You see it so quickly. It's just like suddenly this life force or energy comes up, and the confidence as well, because they can often maybe not have so much confidence because they're used to being a little bit more frail or not quite having the balance, and suddenly, whoa, actually maybe I'm not that old, so there's a change in their mindset as well. So the combination is phenomenal.
You see, I think that's another thing, that their discipline, because obviously they wouldn't have been cosseted, I suppose, when they were younger. So they're used to a little bit of discomfort. So they have no problem with getting stuck in with the training. And also their nutrition was a lot better when they were at their age, when they were younger, I should say. So therefore the forming of their muscle and bone structure as they were growing up was actually probably more solid. And you often find that the older people, once they've been training a little while, are actually stronger than a lot of the younger boys and girls.
Yeah.
So it's and they're more resilient as well. So that point about, as you mentioned, the confidence that appears, that's a massive point, the transformation that you see in them. Although in fairness, as you know, we're dealing in transformation all the time.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I often say to the guys, the trainers, is, let's not get blasé about this, because we do see amazing transformations every week that we need to be, which we are anyway,
Yeah.
very excited to see these transformations at all ages. But it's particularly heartening when you see someone much older, or somebody who comes in with osteoporosis, as an example, and they go and get a scan, and guess what? There's a dramatic improvement.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
these are
The
such a
actual thickening of the
yes, yeah.
bones. Yeah.
But
Increase in bone
we have a
density.
and that is such a measurable thing. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, we have a lady who came to us in her late 60s, early 70s, and obviously now she's closer to 80. But she came in with osteoporosis, it went to osteopenia, and guess what? On her last scan, she was completely clear. So,
That's
we're
amazing.
not making any claims about these things, you understand? But at the same time, with the right nutrition, and that is still important, and the right type of resistance training,
You
there's
can
so
make a
much you
big
can do for
difference.
you. You
Yeah.
can make a massive difference. Yeah, yeah.
So at the moment, sadly, the gyms are closed, as are all gyms under the current restrictions. So I see a comment coming in saying it's takes discipline to do workout at home. So what would you suggest for people at the moment? Because it looks like it may be Easter before we get a chance to get our hands on people again. So what would you recommend people do at the moment? Because there's no point in just sitting there and saying, "I'll wait for the gym to open." It's just been too long. So what would you
See, I
think?
think the first thing is to realize at some stage you're going to walk through that door, and that's assuming all the people watching are from the gyms, perhaps not, but let's assume they are for the moment. They're going to walk through the door, and then they're going to have the first day's training, and the first thing they're going to say is, "I wish I had
Wish.
done a bit more when I was at home." Really, look what's happened. I've undone all the great work I've been doing. I'm not fit, and I really can't lift that weight, etc. So why put yourself through that? Do a little bit every day. I mean, bear in mind, where our training is 20 minutes. It's 20 minutes in a whole day. You have more time to do it.
Mm.
Now, I know there's more motivation required to do it yourself. There's a couple of things you can do. Do the online training, either with Jamie or with the various guys that are on there. It's brilliant. It's a very good replica of what we do in the gym. And it means that you can give away the responsibility to someone else to tell you what to do, which is what you like. So let's do that. In the event that you find that you can't do that for whatever reason, do a few squats,
Mm.
do a few press ups, even if it's against the wall, do a few lunges. These are easy things to do. Take 5 minutes, and maybe next day take 10. Just do something today, anything. Now, going for a walk is good because it'll help you clear your mind, but frankly, it's not enough. It genuinely isn't. It's still good. I know it's very cold, but it is still good for clearing the mind, and do that. But in terms of the exercise, I think something as simple. Just take 5 minutes. If you can't get yourself to 20 or minutes, just take 5. And that will be one. Do the few squats. If you need something to hold on to, the back of a chair, up and down, and just away you go. But I would do something, because this business of waiting until the day you come back, and I've spoken to a lot of people who are doing exactly that. Honestly, you bear in mind that one of the major advantages of the training, one of the major benefits, is how well you feel afterwards. So many people are telling me how depressed they are right now, unhappy, etc. So don't wait for that. Take back control. You, whoever's watching, take back control and do a few exercises. Don't have to do, if you can't do the 20 minutes, fine, so be it. But do them. Deep breathing, and will also clear your mind. Few stretches, train. If it starts off with 5 minutes, that's great. If you can get it to 10 the next time, that's great, and maybe up to 20 eventually. That's great, but do something. That's my thought on it. Obviously, maybe the diet, they can't do it exactly for whatever reason. Maybe get a protein drink and just have one of those during the day. Have really good diet, maybe for breakfast and lunch. Have a dinner and enjoy it. The weekend, maybe have a glass of wine if that's what you want. Try and keep it to the weekend. That's what I'd be thinking. Just, obviously make a step.
Yeah. And I honestly, because we've been doing a lot of training with people and we've been getting incredible results in a really short period of time. We've regularly had people lose 10 to 14 pounds in
Awesome,
2 to 3 weeks.
results.
It's just been incredible.
Yeah.
But if you can get even resistance bands, I tell you the difference in this type of training. It's freezing at the moment, right? So, you go for a walk, you definitely feel you need gloves, you need something to make sure that you're warm even for the walk.
Yeah.
But if you do a session like this and you go outside, you can feel the warmth and the heat all the way to your fingertips, all to your extremities. So the type of training is moving your blood in around your system, which has a massive impact on your health. It's so, so vital. Then there's the mental aspect of it, which don't underestimate it. And then from nutrition, if you don't really want to follow a diet or you think of mine is too restrictive, do one thing. Just increase your protein. Seriously, just get it up. Get your protein up. You'll snack less. You'll have more energy. There's all sorts of research when you eat protein, the energy required to break it down and the energy released when you're consuming protein is huge. That will have a massive impact on your health. And if you can, if you don't face any dietary restrictions, try to get your protein from the meat, fish, dairy, or eggs, because they're going to have the most of your beneficial amino acids and your essential amino acids. If you can increase that, and if you're hungry, snack on something that has protein or a combination of protein, and you really find that you won't eat junk, you won't eat rubbish, you won't find yourself hungry, and you'll notice a big difference in your energy. And I think those things would make a huge difference. If you're interested in doing a program, being held accountable, having a coach, having support, motivation, and you want to get results, then definitely try out one of our programs. And we're doing a 28-day challenge across all the gyms at the moment. And you're more than welcome to get involved in that. And we would love to have you on board because we know the difference that we can make. We're very confident and very certain about what we do. So that really does make a difference.
The results are awesome. The results that are taking place right now in that system are awesome. I think one of the things for people to bear in mind is that the COVID situation means that to a great extent we could regard ourselves as victims. We're kind of trapped. We're stuck in this. We don't have any control, and we're victims. And that's understandable. The people would say that. Obviously, I don't have small kids now, so I don't have the homeschooling. And yes, I know. I can hear them. I do have a grandchild. But anyway, but the fact is, I can understand that is a tough situation. There's a lot more demand from younger moms and dads right now, and it can be tough enough. So you can feel like a victim. But it's back to that thing about taking a degree of control as much as you can. The one thing that you can control is what you eat. Another is what level of exercise you get. And another is how you think. So I would also try to encourage people to look up some of those relaxations that Tom has done. They're free. It's completely free. It's available. They're 20 minutes, 40 minutes, depending on the one that's there. And they're really, really good. Just take some time for yourself. And all this is about making you stronger, fitter, and healthier. And that's really, if we could come out of this, what can we learn in this time? What can we learn in this time? This is a chance for us to learn more about ourselves, which is what I was saying when I was doing a competition or when I was out in business. You learn more about yourself in the process. And really, that's what Educo is the uncovering of yourself. Educo to draw out from within, to really bring about, show us who you really are, show yourself who you really are. And this is a time, sorry about it, but this is a time for that. It's a tough time for many. I'm not making light of that.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, it is a chance to learn more about yourself as well as learn more about the world or whatever. I mean, we spend a lot of time on social media, giving out about whatever the vaccines or they're not doing it fast enough. Stop. Seriously, it's not going to make you happy. What's your ultimate goal? Is to be happy, I guess. And I would also say to be stronger, fitter, and healthier. Well, if that's the case, do the things that are going to make you happy. And honestly, a little bit of training is going to make you happy. Eat more protein in your diet, as we said earlier on, stops the aging process. And maybe taking some time for yourself in the relaxation. Honestly, they will make you happy.
100%. I'm just going to, hopefully this will scroll in. It's going a little bit quick. let's try and slow that
There it
down a
is.
bit. But
That's faster, right?
this is a link for the 28-day
Yeah, go and
challenge
do it,
for those
folks.
of you that
Yeah.
are interested.
Mm.
And it really is a brilliant program. It includes everything. So we've
Mm.
got your nutrition, we've got a training plan, training program, and funny enough, the training is important, but probably the nutrition, really getting guidance in that area is so important. And then
Absolutely.
on top of that, it's the accountability. There's going to be all these free diets, free training programs. You can try to do them to your heart's content, but what we find is that people fall off very, very fast in a couple of days, really. So having a coach, somebody who's going to really bring you through the process, makes a world of a difference. So we would really highly recommend that you do that. And for those of you who are interested in getting results and really want the support and want a program to follow, this one really works. So we would love to have you on board. So please do join us. Now, each of your, if you're a member of Castleknock or you're a member of Ennis or Galway, etc., do get in contact with your local gym, email them, because they'll be able to support you. You'll be familiar with those trainers and coaches. And, it's always brilliant to work with somebody that you're familiar with. That does make a big difference. So get in contact, and we'll set you up, and we'll make sure that you're looked after and that you're motivated through this time. And we've all these other resources that we'd love to share with you, from relaxation to nutrition events to anything that we can help to educate you and support you. We're passionate about it. We absolutely love it. So yeah, please do get in touch. Okay, I think that's enough from the two of us. John, if there's anything else there's one final thing. We always talk about it. Somebody is sitting there thinking, maybe they've had this has been bothering them for 10 years, 5 years. And what would you say to somebody to just push them over the edge? It's the wrong way to put it. What would you do to motivate them to make a start?
Yeah, I think just imagine the life the way you want it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Start with what you want. Always. It's always the outcome. And that would be a time for a complete talk in itself. But seriously, what do you want? No. What do you really, really want? What do you want? What do you really, really want? And that's the key. If you really, most people will want to be in better shape than they are. That's the reality of it. We know that almost 3/4 of the population are overweight or obese. They don't all want to be like that. So they want to make a step, but now is the time. Make that step. I mean, obviously, I would say go and do the online training. Start anywhere. Have a look at the relaxation. Have a look at some of the interviews that are there. They're all there to encourage you to make the step, but it's only moving towards what you want. And what you want is there now. Take it now. This is the chance to change your life. Honestly, it is. Because you just only start with one step. Just take the step and then enjoy the outcome.
100%. Thank you so much for joining us today, John. It's been brilliant, and it's given us a real insight into all the different areas. And I think it is inspiring for somebody as they're getting older, because often they think, I'm too old for training, I'm too old for joining a gym, and that's so not true. That's totally the opposite, actually. It's now is the best time to start, whatever your age. And
get younger. Get younger as you get older.
Younger. Yeah, get younger quicker, quickly. So thanks so much, John. Really appreciate it. And for those of you watching, thank you so much for staying with us. And if you're watching this later, please do let us know any questions that you have for us. We'd love to address them on Saturday. We'll definitely have John back on again. And we'll hopefully have Jackie back again next week. And in the meantime, enjoy your weekend. Not too much. It's Valentine's Day tomorrow. So really enjoy that. I hope it's a great one. And thank you so much. Have a great one, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.